Hi, this is Dr. Eddie Morgan over at Clovis East High School, ready to help you with your homework tonight. We're going to be looking at Math 1 Homework Worksheet 3.5. Remember, every problem in Homework Help mirrors a problem on your homework, so let's get started. Problem 1 asks us this question. What are the x and the y intercepts of the graph 5x minus 6y? You remember that if we have a graph like this, and we have a line going through at some point, wherever it crosses the y-axis, that is the y-intercept. But notice when it crosses there, x equals 0. Likewise, where it crosses the x-axis here, at that point, y equals 0. So all we have to do to find the x and the y is to put in 0 for the x or the y. For example, if I want to find the x-intercept, I let y equal 0. That will give me all of the ones along the y-axis. So I put in here 5x minus 6 times 0 equals 10. 6 times 0 is 0, so that goes away, and I just have 5x equals 10. Divide by 5, and I get x equals 2. So my x-intercept is the point 2, 0. Likewise, if I want to find the y-intercept, we just reverse the process. In this case, all along the y-axis, x equals 0. So let x equal 0, and we have 5 times 0 minus 6y equals 10. That's 0. So we end up with minus 6y equals 10. Divide by minus 6, and we have y equals minus 10 over 6. Or I could simplify that and say that's minus 5 over 3. So my point is x is 0 and y is minus 5 over 3. And that's our answer. For problem 3, we're going to apply what we learned in problem 1 to draw a graph. In other words, to draw this graph, if we can find where does it intercept the y-axis and the x-axis, that'll give us 2 points and we can draw the line. So let's start by finding the x-intercept. So to find the x-intercept, I let y equal 0. So in this case, I'll write 3x plus 6 times 0 equals 18. 6 times 0 is 0, so I'm left with 3x equals 18. Undo the 3x by dividing both sides by 3. That goes to 1. And I have x equals 6, or the point 6, 0. So that's my x-intercept. So I can come over here from 0, count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and my line crosses right there. So now let's find the y-intercept. Similar process. To find the y-intercept, we let x equal 0. So 3 times 0 plus 6y equals 18. That's 0. So we have 6y equals 18. Undo the 6 times y by dividing by 6. That goes to 1. And I have y equals 18 divided by 6, which is 3, which is the point 0, 3. So I come over here at start the origin and go up 3. And that's my x-intercept and my y-intercept. And now all I have to do is draw a line between them. And I have graphed that line. So we use the x-intercept and the y-intercept to find 2 points that we can then draw a line in our graph. Problem 3 asks this question. Is the graph of y equal negative 2.5 a horizontal line, a vertical line, or neither? Well, let's consider this for a moment. Consider that I don't see an x term. Well, if I wanted to put an x term in there, the way I would do it is I would put 0 times x, that would be 0, minus 2.5. And if you look at it that way, then you can see that m here is slope. My slope equals 0, and my y-intercept is negative 2.5. Well, a slope of 0 is, if I were drawing this graph, I would go down to minus 2.5, And a slope of 0, notice, doesn't go up or doesn't go down. It is simply a line that looks like that. No rise, no run. No rise, but a run is 0. And so the answer is this is a horizontal line. If it were a vertical line, it would have an undefined slope. Problem 4 asks us to write this equation, y equals 1/3 x, in standard form. If you remember, standard form looks like this: some number x plus some number y equals c. So let's start here, and all we're going to be doing is using algebraic operations to put it into that form. So I have y equals 1/3 x plus 4. Well, first thing we notice is we've got the x on both sides, on one side. So let's get rid of the x here. Actually, we want to keep this. We do want to keep this positive. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to put the 4 on the other side. So let's subtract 4 from both sides. And I get y minus 4 equals 1/3 x. And then I want to bring the y to the other side, so we'll subtract y from this side and this side. And that gives me minus 4 equals 1/3 x minus y. And because in standard form we want these to be integers, not fractions, I can undo this fraction by multiplying by the denominator. But to do that, I need to multiply everything by 3 on both sides. And 3 times minus 4 is minus 12. 3 times 1/3 is x, and then 3 here is minus 3y. Now, if we just flip it over with the that rule, the commutative property, I can switch these and say, if that's true, then I can say x minus 3y equals minus 12, and that is the same equation in the standard form using integers. 5 is a word problem. It says the store sells gift cards in presets amount. You can purchase gift cards for $10 or for $25. You have spent $260 total on gift cards. Write an equation in standard form to represent the situation. First of all, it says let x is going to equal the number of $10 cards, and y is going to equal the number of $25 cards. So the question is to set up an equation. We know that for every card we buy for x dollars, for every $10 card, that's going to cost $10 times x, plus the $25 cards, 25 times y, and that has to equal our $260. Right. So that's the equation that we need. If you wanted to get rid of those, you could say 10x plus 25y equals 260. Now, then it asks us for 3 combinations. The easiest way to go about this is, obviously, if I had 0 x's, 25 doesn't go into 260. It goes under 250 10 times, but it would come up $10. Well, let's see. It would come up $10 short. So the first chest, if I have 10 of these, if I do one of these, notice that 260 minus 10 is 250, and with 25y, if we divide that by 25, we see that goes in 10. So you can see that 10 plus 25 times 10 is going to equal 260. So one possible combination is one $10 card and 25 Y cards. Now at this point, it's good to notice that if I add a second card here, if I were to add 2 of these, notice that 260 minus 20 would give me 240, and 25 doesn't go into that evenly. Likewise, if I went up to 30, bought 3 of them, 230 doesn't go in, and all the way down. In other words, the next time I'm going to get down is when, so 10-3 doesn't work either. So 260 minus 30 would be 230. 25 doesn't go into that either. 260 subtract 40 is 220, and again that doesn't go in there. And then let's try 5. 260 minus 50 is 210, and again 25 doesn't go in there. But when we get to 6, 260 minus 60 is going to give us $200, and 25 goes into that 8 times. So in other words, we can have 10 times 6 of these, 60, plus 8 times 25. That's going to give us 60 plus 200, and that equals 260. So another solution here would be X, when we buy 6 of these, and then we buy 8 of these. Now, one thing you notice that to get down here, the next step we're going to go down to is when this goes down to 150. Okay? Notice how we went from here we had 250, and we dropped down to 200. So we're going to go down to 150, which would mean this other one here to be 260 has to be 110. Okay, so that would be 10 times 11 plus 6 times 25. All right. So the next point would be to buy 11 $10 cards and 6 $25. If we follow that pattern, you can see we're going down. This is going up 5 each time. So we went 1 to 6, up 5, 6 to 11. So this is going to be 16. Oh, we made a mistake up here at the first. This should have been not 125, but 110. So 110, 6, 8. And so you notice the next one's going to be 6 over 4. Go up one more, and we have 21. And this will go down to 2. So there's a set of possibilities. You needed to find 3 of them, and there's 6 possibilities there. Problem 6 is a vocabulary question. It simply asks us to identify whether it's in the slope-intercept form, the point slope, or the standard form. Just to remind you, slope-intercept is called that because y equals the slope times x plus the y-intercept. The point slope, that form has a point and a slope. That's the one that has y minus the y in the first point equals the slope times x minus the x in the first point. So there's my slope, and there's my point, x and y. Finally, the standard form simply looks like this: ax plus by equals c, where we want a, b, and c as much as possible to be integers, and we want a to be positive. Okay? So now let's look at it. Notice this one, y plus 6. This would be y minus 6 equals minus 1 times x minus 3, and you notice that that is the point slope form. In this case, you can clearly see there's my slope, there's my y-intercept. This is the slope-intercept form. Once again here, notice y minus 12. There's my slope, my point, so this is once again the point slope form. And then here is our standard form, ax plus by, and that's our standard form. Okay, so on to the last problem. Problem 7 asks us to do a little reasoning. Which form would you use to write an equation of the line at the right? The slope-intercept form, the point slope, or the standard form? Well, looking at it, the easiest one, I think, would be the slope-intercept form, because I can find a slope-intercept right here. Notice that this is the point 0, 2. So that means that b equals 2, my slope-intercept. And I just had to find a slope here. And notice if I go down here, I go down minus 1 and over 2. So the slope equals minus 1/2. That would, I think, would be the easiest way, is the slope-intercept. And I could simply write that as y equals minus 1/2 x plus 2. Now, at the same time, I could use the point slope form. And I could do a similar thing, like I could pick a point like right here. Here's the point 2, 1. And I could use that same slope and say, okay, this is going to be y minus 1 equals minus 1/2 x, 1/2 times x minus 2. And that's in the point slope form. Notice, of course, that if I were to simplify this, distribute there, I get, that's a plus 1. And then if I undo this, I end up with the same form I got with the slope-intercept form. But this would be it in point slope form. The hardest would probably be to find the standard. Because to do the standard, what you almost need to do is take one of these forms, like take this one here, and write it in one form and then change it. So if I tried to change this back into that form, you see, I could add 1/2 x here, and I would get 1/2 x plus y equals 2. And then to get an integer, I'd multiply both sides by 2, and we would have 2 times 1/2 is x, distribute, plus 2y equals 4, and that would be this in standard form. So as I said, the easiest, I believe, would be the slope-intercept. Next would be the point slope. The hardest would be standard, because you actually have to write one of the other forms and then solve for the standard. All right, it's been a good night of homework. See you in class.